Russia's military has never looked this vulnerable. In just 30 days, Ukraine has destroyed more Russian bombers and more Russian stealth fighters inside of Russia than Moscow lost in the first half a year of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This is no longer just about the front lines. This is about how Russia's aircraft are being destroyed by Ukraine. And these are the very aircraft that are used to terrorize Ukrainian cities. The Tupolev 95s are the bombers that are used to launch the cruise missiles. They destroy power stations. They kill civilians. The Su-34s, same idea. They're the tactical bombers. They've been used to launch the glide bombs and to kill civilians. The Su-57s, stealth fighters. They're meant to project Russian power. But all of these aircraft are being destroyed, one drone at a time, at their home hangars in front of a shocked Russian population. And the attacks that have just occurred are simply remarkable, because now Russia has lost air defense. So today we're going to look at is how this June offensive by Ukraine, it didn't just strike a few airplanes and a couple of factories. It in fact crippled Russia's operational aviation. It also shattered critical production lines and forced Moscow to reroute some of its bombers hundreds of miles away. This all just proves that Putin's most advanced arsenals are defenseless against Ukrainian ingenuity. And Russia's bombers, like all of its aircraft, are no longer safe anywhere inside of Russia. What we're going to discuss today is a little bit different from what most people talk about, because it's not simply about the total amount of airplanes that were wrecked. It's about how each one of these strikes is part of a larger quilt, a larger movement. This is all about systemically dismantling Russia's ability to wage war. And now you're going to understand how all these attacks working together are eroding production capacity. They're breaking logistics. And this all proves that Ukraine can stop the Russian war machine, not just at the front, but within Russia itself, denying Russia the ability to wage war as it wishes, because Ukraine now has brought the war home to Russia. So let's look at the most recent attack, the one that's getting all the attention now. So that was against the Kripple electromechanical plant located inside of Russia. That plant is really important, because it is the one that mass produces the Tor M2s. They are the backbone of the short-range air defenses that Russia uses to stop Ukrainian drone attacks. And that attack in Izhevsk, Russia, is over 1,300 kilometers, which is about 800 miles from Ukraine. Destroying that plant, the sole producer of the Tor M2s, also the OSA air defense, well, it's not very clear how Russia can get ahead from there. It's not clear if Russia will be able to produce more air defense. At a very minimum, this will definitely mean for the next couple of months, Russia's not going to be able to produce more air defense. And by the way, the population of Russia is keenly interested in the topic of air defense. They're noticing that there's some serious problems at present. Keep in mind, Russia's recorded, just in the first half of 2025, over 250 civilian airports have been closed. Put this into contrast, or to compare this to how big this is more than triple the annual total before the war. Just between January and May 2025, Russia had 217 closures. And this was reported widely in the Russian press, including things like Kommersant. Now, in June 2025 alone, there was an additional estimated 35 to 45 incidences. And everything was affected by this. St. Petersburg, in Moscow. In Moscow, all the major airports, Sheremetyevo, Vnukovo, Domodedovo, Zhukovskoye, they, guess what, all had repeated flights suspended. And because it's across all of Russia, everybody's aware of what's happening. Everybody sitting at airports for hours waiting for the flights knows something is wrong. They know that their government does not control the airspace over their cities. They've been promised that Vladimir Putin would protect them, that Vladimir Putin was there for them because he wanted to make them safe. But now, just look. Tambov, Vladimir, Nizhnebrsk, Samara, Kirov, Kazan, just more and more Russian cities that have had hours of suspended flights or delayed flights because the Ukrainians are striking them with drones. Repeated closures of 2 to 5 hours, they also create economic strain. They create public anxiety. They disrupt the normal discourse of the society. And overall, the Kremlin can do nothing about it. And now that, thanks to the latest attack, it will not be able to produce more air defense, it's significant. To give you an idea of how bad the air defense situation is within Russia, not only is Ukraine flying across all of Russia in any direction, 1,300 kilometers or even more, to attack facilities and successfully do so without being slowed down or stopped, says a lot. But just look how Russia has been humiliated internationally. It is a partner of Iran. Iran just sustained a significant beating. And Iran was counting on a Russian air defense. But we see how that's worked out. This means that the attacks going on now in Russia are a humiliation. And they're ones that will forever make the respect that had formerly been given to Soviet technology or to Russian technology disappear. Because everybody sees that it's not effective. So in June 2025, this past month, it represents the largest monthly degradation of Russian military aviation since the invasion first began. Ukraine has successfully demonstrated to the world that the ability to penetrate deep inside of Russia is real. And it can do it with entire swarms. The Russians have nothing equivalent on their side. And I'll cite a big difference between the Ukrainian and Russian side. The Ukrainian side is very innovative. You realize there's an incredible amount of ingenuity. There's a lot of very smart folks who are volunteers and professionals who are helping to come up with new technologies, devising new drones that can do simply amazing things. The Russian side doesn't have that. It has a large, unmanageable bureaucracy that's very corrupt. They're ultimately really not fighting for anything more than make more money. And you can see that in the results that it gives. Their drones, most of them, Shahed drones specifically, come from Iran. And though Russia today is able to assemble the drones within their own country, a lot of the components, for instance, the motor, is coming from other countries. They don't have the capacity to produce them themselves. And now Ukraine, which is truly incredible, with drones that cost a few $100s, a couple $1,000s, are disabling the strategic bombers, the stealth fighters, the production facilities of Russia, hundreds of miles away from the front. So let's look at some of the recent attacks that occurred. Some of the statistics which I saw earlier today were simply shocking to me. So if we look back on the June 1st attack, how this wonderful month began, Ukraine started Operation Spiderweb. Now, some of the aircraft that they struck are more than just bombers or fighters. And I know a lot of people have already talked about that, but I'd like to talk about it from a different side, in a way that perhaps you've not heard, which is how these weapons are being used to kill Ukrainians today. So the Tu-95s, which are the core of Russia's entire cruise missile force, well, Russia first only has about 56 of them in total inventory, of which, guess what? A lot of them don't work. It's thought that only about 40 of them are actually operational. Following Ukraine's attack on June 1st, about 25 to 33% of the functional fleet of Tu-95 MSs, were destroyed. Russia, for instance, has 57 Tu-22 M3s, bombers, of which only about 27 or 30 are operational. This means that the attacks that Ukraine carried out are preventing Russia's capacity to carry out long-range strikes within Ukraine. Russia has 9 A-50s, the AWACS. Now, only about 6 or 7 are thought to be airworthy. Thanks to Ukraine's attack, that means 14 to 17% of Russia's entire situational awareness was destroyed. Jump ahead, get back to June 8th, Ukraine carried out more attacks. It struck, in fact, an airbase deep inside of Russia. And what it did was it struck the base that is the premier, the top base for both operating and testing Su-57s. Ukraine destroyed 2 Su-57s. The stealth fighters. Russia only has 14 of them. That means that 14% of Russia's entire fleet were destroyed. This is an unprecedented blow to Russia's global ambitions. This was Russia's ability to show its fifth generation capabilities, and they've literally gone up in smoke. Look at the attack on the 14th of June at the Morozovsk air base. You know what happened there? Inside of Rostov Oblast, Russia, the Ford-based tactical bombers, which are used specifically to strike inside of Ukraine, were destroyed. Russia had more planes destroyed, 2 more destroyed just in that attack. And though Russia technically has 125 Su-34s, only about 100 to 110% are operational. This means that Russia lost about 1.6% of its total functional fleet of that aircraft. That's enough to force Russia to reschedule and reroute the sorties. But go ahead, go to June 28th. There's an escalating attrition. Ukraine's drones struck within Volgograd, Russia, more of the Su-34s. In one night, they lost more than Russia lost to enemy fire in an average month in 2023. Marinovka, that facility that was struck in Volgograd, is a critical hub for tactical bombers that are used to support the eastern operations. Destroying 2 more Su-34s, damaging 2 more. So when you combine the Morozovsk attack from June 2025, where 6 more Su-34s were confirmed lost, this means about 4.9%, 5% of Russia's total inventory were destroyed. This means that Russia's aviation was degraded. Its ability to maintain sustained bombing campaigns is now degraded. And that's why the attack today is so important and so wonderful. Ukraine is attacking facilities within Russia, and you might try to understand what they all have in common. I can explain very easily. The objective is to destroy Russia's ability to attack Ukraine, to kill Ukrainians. It is denying Russia the ability to fight a war of attrition by destroying both the Russian aircraft that are killing Ukrainians, as well as the facilities within Russia that produce what is necessary to commit these murders. It is making Russia go on the defensive. Russia is waging a war of aggression illegally. But now, Russia's trying to find out how it can defend itself, and it doesn't know how to do that. Russia very clearly is shocked by what is occurring, because now that they've lost the ability to create more air defense, at least in the short term, it's going to make it all the harder for Russia to continue this war. And Vladimir Putin, as I've argued many times, at the end of the day, cares only about one thing. And it's not about the war in Ukraine. It's about Vladimir Putin. And if he realizes that what he's doing is starting to destabilize the country, then he might have to rethink what he's doing. Because if he risks a coup, if he risks provoking the military to overthrow him, which, by the way, in Russian history, coups, overthrows of power, do occur, which, by the way, is the most likely predictor of future countries' coups, is if that country historically has had coups. And Russia does. Russia historically does have revolutions and overthrows of government. So Vladimir Putin has to look at this. He has to look at what's going on and realize that the population feels unsafe. The population feels that Vladimir Putin cannot protect them. And any day, another situation falls far outside of his ability to control, another Prigozhin, Wagner-like uprising, Vladimir Putin could very well fall. It could really happen. And that's Ukraine's objective. How do we make it impossible for Russia to wage war? How do we break Russia's ability to kill our people? To support Ukraine and what it's doing, I'll include a link below for a fundraiser to help Ukraine buy more drones. We together can help Ukraine to save its civilians' lives, to save its soldiers' lives, and to stop Russian aggression. I thank you for watching this video. Please like this video. Please subscribe. It helps more people to learn the truth about what's going on. As always, thank you for supporting Ukraine.